just lived in the state, you know, all that. But I thought last night really she did a great job of telling us that it's time for us to move forward. And it's time for us to get involved. You know, Arkansas gave her the biggest vote of any state, 70%. And I think we're all proud of that, but it's Barack Obama's time. Let me tell y'all about my first exposure to Barack Obama. Y'all may not remember, but there was a vacant seat in the Senate. There was a senator who retired, a Republican. And there were, at one point, I think, 8 Democrats running for that. I think in the end there were only maybe 6 that were in that primary. And I remember sitting in lunch one day in Washington, and someone was going through the list, one of the senators was going through the list of all the people that were in that race. And there was so-and-so guy who maybe was a big businessman there was somebody else who maybe was a trial lawyer, there was somebody else who, you know, I mean, all these had all these great credentials. And then he said, and the last guy in the race is a state senator named Barack Obama. And I must tell you, I thought right then, I said, that's the worst political name I've ever heard. And man, was I wrong. Because what happened, you know, about that same time, because we were talking about their primaries coming up, what happened about that same time is it became very, very clear in Illinois that they knew who the quality candidate was in that lineup. And they gave Barack a huge primary win without a runoff. I mean, he won this thing huge and going away, so much so that it wasn't even a contest. And then, a few months later, he shows up in the Senate, brand new senator, and one of the things I do in the Senate is I do the new senator orientation, or something that I helped to start since I've been there, and we've kind of redone it. But anyway, Barack came in, and in this new orientation that we set up, he's one of those people that right when you meet, there's a couple things you pick up on immediately. One is he's very bright. You can tell that just by looking at him and see how he handles himself. He's very, very smart, and you can tell. Second thing is, he's great with people. I noticed that. I noticed when he was a new senator, and some of these guys come in, they're kind of cocky, they're kind of arrogant, you know, they've won the statewide race, they think they're hot stuff. And, you know, Brock came in with the humility. He came in where he was not just talking to senators and didn't just care about us, he was talking to staff members, he was talking to the Capitol Police, I mean, you know, he was talking to staff. I mean, it was really impressive of how he was reaching out to everybody at the Capitol, not just the senators and the congressmen. And you can see that. He has this human quality about him, this humility that's very real and very genuine. And then, literally, in that first conversation I had with him during that orientation period, we were able, in a very short time, to have a conversation about faith. And Barack Obama's faith is something that is very, very important to him, very personal to him, very, very deep in him. And it comes through. He's genuine about it. He doesn't wear it on his sleeve. He doesn't go out there and wear people out with it. But he's living a life that he knows he's supposed to do better. And Michelle keeps him grounded. In fact, she was there during this orientation, and all Barack wanted to talk about was his little girls. And he's a very, very grounded person. He's someone who, again, you would think, given what he's been through in the last 4 or 5 years, could have this big ego, he could have a big head. Not at all. You know, he's the kind of guy that is exactly the right guy for this moment in history. You know, I know that a lot of that inner strength in Barack Obama comes from his growing up the way he did. You know, he doesn't talk about it a lot, but he grew up without a father. And one of the reasons he's been pushing some of the legislation he's been pushing is because he knows how hard that is. And he knows what he had to go through. His family, and a lot of kids that he grew up with had to go through order to do that. And he understands the value of having a strong, strong family. And so he draws a lot of strength from that and a lot of strength from his life experiences. But I think fundamental to all that, and even a deeper foundation for him, is his personal faith. And one of the things that I notice in Washington about Barack is he scares Republicans. First, he's a new face. He's very charismatic. He has a lot of new ideas. He wants to change the paradigm in Washington. And that scares them because they know that the people in this country are ready for that change. And they know if he gets elected, some of their old ways and those old things that they've been doing, not just the last 8 years, but the last 28 years in Washington, the Republicans are going to have to change the way they govern. And it scares them. It really does scare them. But also they're scared because whenever Barack Obama shows up somewhere, huge crowds of people. The Republicans are about control, right? They can't control Barack Obama. They can't control him. You get this event in Oregon, there's 70,000 people showed up. 70,000 people. Tomorrow night, they realize that this arena that seats 20,000 plus people, whatever it is, that's too small. They're moving over to Mile High Stadium. And you all know that because the crowds are going to be enormous tomorrow night. But really the crowds all over America are enormous for Barack Obama, and they're enormous for change. People, I believe very strongly, people in this country, we want to believe again, right? We want to believe. We can put our confidence in him and know that he's going to go to Washington and he's going to get things done, just like he said he's going to do that. And, you know, Obama's done several things during this campaign that are very unorthodox. And that, by the way, that scares Republicans as well. But he's done several things that are very unorthodox, and he's been able to pull it together. And my sense is that there's a destiny about Barack Obama. I think there's a destiny about it. In fact, I'll say this. I think that even though I was for Hillary early on, you all know that, I'm trying to hurt her, love her, and just want to help her where I can. I believe very strongly that anyone who can beat Hillary Clinton must know a little something about politics. And Barack Obama's proven that he really does. And, I look forward to him getting out all over the country. And I talked to these people last night about trying to come to Arkansas and trying to get in there. And I do think they want to do that. There's a lot of details and all that, but certainly I do think they want to do that. But the bottom line is, and this is something that we should never forget, one of the lessons we should learn from President Bush being in office these last 8 years is elections have consequences. You know why we're in Iraq today? Because elections have consequences. You look at our federal judges today, elections have consequences. Look at our economy. Elections have consequences. Gas at $4 a gallon, elections have consequences. And this election that we're looking at right here in 2008 is going to have huge, huge consequences for the future of this country. I think when Barack Obama is sworn in, when he takes that oath on January 20th, 2009, I think you'll have a president that is not just a new face and has some new ideas, that's great. But I think you're going to have a president who's going to focus on America for the first time in 8 years. And as he focuses on America, and as he rebuilds the U.S. economy, and he does things like make sure that people in this country have health care, get an education, have proper housing, all those things that Brock believes in, he's going to change America. He's going to change it for the better. He's going to make it stronger.